Hello and welcome to another tier list video. Today we'll be doing Void Rifts, a mutator that's very difficult for many commanders, one of the big three. And without any further ado, let's begin. First of all, S means that it's very easy to deal with, and then D means it's very difficult. And for OE, it is right in the center. So the first rifts are in safe areas for the most part, most of the time. There is a chance for a rift to be at the end of a track, and if it gets there, then you're kind of screwed. But for the most part, the early rifts are within reach. The rifts after like 820, they can be in very deep parts of the track, which makes it suck. If you have control of the bonus spend, you can actually control a lot of rifts that spawn there. And as long as there are no environmental mutators, it's actually not too bad. You can also take care of a lot of rifts from the high ground in the center. So that's pretty good. If you have siege units, you can deal with rifts without even paying attention. It's pretty much automatic. The reason why it's not that easy compared to others is that some of the rifts on the sides are just so deep in the base that you can't deal with them easily at all. So even like Abathur, you have to deep tunnel maybe 2 Brutalists, or else you get surrounded and beat up by the high tier units or the large number of units in those bases. Part and Parcel, also over here. Part and Parcel is not so easy because the map is so huge. The map itself is really lax in terms of timing, so you're not rushed to deal with any objectives or anything. But the map is so big that if you get a spawn that's like in the back of the final area or in the right side near that big base with the air units, it's really hard to clear it. And you have to just fight off trickles for quite some time until you are able to find a way to get to that rift and deal with it. By that time, you get like 4 more, and they might be in also like other areas that you're not near. And the map is really big. That's the main reason why this is difficult. Rifts are difficult on this map. Lock and load is pretty easy. So the early rifts are always going to be close by, which is nice. There's a small chance that they'll be behind the western lock, but for the most part, they're not going to be over there. The hard part about this map is that there are some rifts that spawn in between like the cannons, and there's also a spot behind the bonus, which can be difficult to reach. Aside from those, the rifts are generally in manageable places. If you clear the area to the northeast of the center lock between the bonus and the lock, you can actually have access to most of the rifts. And if you clear the left side, the left lock area, you also have access to a lot more. I don't think any rifts spawn inside the big bases, so that's good. And also this map, the map itself is also not too bad. So you can finish this fairly quickly, even if you have to deal with rifts in the meantime. Void Launch is one of the easiest maps for rifts because pretty much all the rifts, with the exception of like a spot behind the third bonus and the spot near the center conduit, the spawn, all the rifts will spawn in areas that you have control over. So for most of the game, you can reach the rifts that spawn without any enemies blocking your way. So that's really good. That is why Void Launch is probably the easiest map for Void Rifts. If you want to practice, this is a good map to start with. Void Thrashing is pretty good. The good thing about this map is that it's small. The bad thing is that it's very fast paced, so you don't have time to build up before the pressure is on. You may even let the Thrashers hit the fortress down to like 2000 HP before you stabilize if there are so many other things going on. If you clear the entire left side area, any rifts that spawn there are basically yours for free. There are a few spots in the last area that rifts can spawn at, which can be problematic, but fortunately, it's only like that spot, and they will trickle to the center around there. So if you build some structures in the center, the trickles will hit there instead of your base, and you will have defenses there to deal with them. Also, there is a spot like near the bonus that can also be problematic, but same thing. The trickles will go to the center if you place some structures there, since the trickles go after buildings. Rifts to Korhal is another easy map for rifts. The hardest part is the 2-minute wave, which you have to deal with the 220 rifts plus a like wave that hits your base around 230. Once you deal with that, the pacing of this map is fairly slow, and you have access to pretty much all the rifts, especially after you deal with the second set. Once you clear the middle, you have access to the majority of the rifts that spawn. There is an area in like the third set of rifts. There's one near the second bonus, 2 spots near the second bonus, and there's a few spots in the final area that could be problematic, but most of them will spawn in the second area or on your side. So they're pretty much free. If there are no environmental mutators, you're pretty much free to deal with them. And you can even build your own static defenses to get free kills once they spawn. The ESO area is pretty much free because there are no enemies there. You do have to find a way to get some units back there if you haven't cleared the second area yet. But once you get some units there, you have control of the rifts that spawn in that area as well. Chain of Ascension is one of the more difficult maps because some rifts will spawn behind the last base, and that's very deep. You won't be able to reach there unless you fly some units around. Any units that are between the center base and the last base also difficult because the center base is so fortified. You have to deal with that first. The other rifts are basically gonna be like near southern base area. Once you clear more areas of the map, you have control of the rifts that spawn in those areas. So as you clear more of the map, rifts will spawn in areas that are not near any enemy structures. So there's a higher chance that they'll spawn in areas that you already have control of. Temple is one of the harder maps for rifts. Some of the rifts will spawn near the temple, and the enemies will just hit the temple instead of your base. And that really sucks because they're gonna end the game a lot faster for you, especially if you're unable to deal with 220 rifts. Another reason why rifts are hard on temple is because if they spawn near a wave, for example, they spawn on the side and you're dealing with side waves, you can't really send a hit squad after it because the rift is going to be defended by a wave. You're not just dealing with a 500 HP structure and then running away. There will be enemies defending it. So that's pretty much a rift that you have to leave alone until the wave passes by, which means that they'll spawn a lot more stuff. And that could be problematic for some commanders. Also, your hit squads cannot just stay in the lanes because the action of the mission shifts depending on what part of the mission you're on. So you have to move your hit squads, your air units to the side. If they're ground units, you have to move them to like the bonus or something out of vision so that they don't get killed. So yeah, Temple, difficult map for rifts. Cradle of Death, another difficult map for rifts because some of the rifts spawn in very, very fortified areas. Any rift that spawns in the southeastern base will just be like impossible to get unless you're like Han and Horner. Even Abathur has trouble deep tunneling to one of those because like you might get hit by like 3 Reavers or something like that. It's just crazy difficult to get rid of. The 220 rifts can even spawn behind a construct on the left side if the third area is on the left side, and that means like it's pretty much impossible to destroy for the beginning of the game for like a long time. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of trickles, and that's pretty much GG. So yeah, not great. The places where rifts can spawn, it's just nasty. The good thing is that once you clear an area, rifts can spawn there and it will be completely clear. In that sense, it's good. But before then, man, some of the places that the rifts spawn are just terrible. Missed opportunities is actually fairly easy. None of the rifts spawn in the final area. They do spawn near the second bonus, maybe in the top right area of the, like past the 5th area. A Reaver or tank might be like hitting you. That can be dangerous. But aside from that, most of the rifts are in places that you can reach. Once you get to like 20 minutes, you have full map control, and well, by that time, for most maps, you should be okay anyways. But the map itself is also not really big, so you can reach even far areas with air units. You just have to fly around the sides. Malwarfare is difficult because some rifts will spawn in the last area or maybe even in the 4th area. And if you don't have air units, you can't really reach there. And sometimes even if you do have air units, there are a lot of enemy units that will attack you and you can't deal with the rifts that spawn there. And if too many of them spawn in those areas, then you won't be able to deal with them at all. Malwarfare, like another part is like by the time you reach A20, you barely have control of any part of the map. It's hard to have control. It's hard to have control of even like the third area. So if a rift spawns in that area, you won't be able to reach it either. And if you're unlucky, A20 is just a game breaker. Also, some rifts may spawn near the bonus, and you don't really want to be heading towards the bonus because it's out of the way. If you're spending time clearing the enemies there, you're not spending time pushing forward. So yeah, the rift spawns on this map are terrible. Not to mention that in before A20, some rifts may spawn near the second bonus. That's way past the first area. You have to pass 2 encampments, maybe even 3, just to get it. And if you can't, then you're fighting trickles for basically forever, and that's no good. Vermillion Problem is a terrible map for rifts. Let's see. First, rifts can spawn in lava. So if you're unlucky with the timings, you can't deal with them since the lava will be there to protect them. And since the lava lasts for 30 seconds or so, you're going to have to face the rift waves that spawn 30 seconds after the rifts spawn. Second is that some of the rifts spawn super far. Like there's a spot in the top right base where a rift can spawn. Also in the bottom right corner can spawn there as well. And if it spawns there, you're just screwed. How are you going to reach there unless you're able to like deep tunnel there or something? If you can't fight off the trickles, then you're screwed. Another reason why this map sucks for rifts is in the early game, a rift can spawn behind the natural, in the lava, behind the left base. How are you going to reach there? It's so hard to get to that area, and if you have to deal with a rift there, then you're just, you're pretty much not going to deal with it at all. So yeah, early game sucks, mid game also sucks. Not to mention the randomness of the waves. You don't know how they will line up, and it's going to be hard to deal with the objectives. The trickles from the rifts will also mess with your workers. So if you don't defend them, then you're going to be dropping a lot of crystals. Scythe of Amon is a difficult map for rifts. The early game rifts are okay, but they might spawn like in areas that are kind of fortified. And if they spawn behind the natural area, the center sliver, you might have problems clearing that. They also can spawn in the first bonus, which means that you have to clear that area as well. And if you don't, then good luck. Later on, some of the rifts spawn near and very close to encampments. Even Abathur, if you try to send a single Brutalist, it'll get killed because of the sheer number of units that are defending certain rifts. So yeah, the rifts on this map are quite terrible. Dead of Night is a terrible map for rifts because at nighttime, you don't really have a chance to go out. I learned that for Dead of Night, you have to change your way of thinking when dealing with rifts because you're going to be relentlessly attacked for like 3 minutes anyways. I think the main thing is you just defend at home. And instead of trying to clear rifts right away, you just think of it as like instead of infested, you have some extra zerglings and maybe some like ravagers and stuff to deal with. And a few additional units that you have to deal with during the nighttime. You don't need to rush and clear the rifts ASAP because you're going to be relentlessly attacked no matter what during the night. If you're able to change your mindset, this map becomes a little easier to deal with, but I haven't been able to beat rifts on this map with anyone except like the best, maybe like Swan, Dahaka, and like Abathur. I don't know if anyone else can. It's maybe Karax, but you're gonna run out of energy. So another tough map. Minor Evacuation is actually fairly easy. On this map, it's even easier if you can get, if there's no ship to the east of the natural. To the right of the natural, if you can get past that area, you can have access to a huge part of the map, which means that you can control any rifts that spawn. The farthest rifts are the ones near the eradicators and the ones in the top right. The top right one, you have to kind of sneak past the base to reach. But if you have air units, you can kind of fly over the dead space and then reach the back and deal with those. You pretty much have to just defend the natural. They come from one, or they come from like one area, pretty much, the top choke. If you clear the bottom, like the earlier ships will be at the bottom, so you'll have like units there defending. Your main army will be there as well. And then by the late game, you pretty much have control of the whole map, and you have units that can reach any spot that the rifts spawn at. and the map is not too big, so you don't need that many hit squads. And that's it for this tier list. What are your thoughts on Void Rifts? Leave your comments down below.